When I first met married folk music duo Jenny and Tyler several years ago, the artful couple were on the cusp of cementing their music in the consciousness and on the playlists of a nationwide listening audience. Now, the 30-something musicians have celebrated a decade of marriage, the birth of 3 children, and lived through higher highs and lower lows, and as a result are penning songs of lessons learned by delving into the deep ends of life. I'm always glad to spend time talking with Jenny and Tyler, and our conversation on this episode of CCM Magazine's Features on Film is no exception. I'm your host, Andrew Greer. We've known each other a long time, and I think we've never gotten to have this element. Though probably like even some of our first coffees was this. Was I asking a lot of questions?
It was mostly about marketing, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
about
what
all-
are you doing?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And we're like, we don't really know.
Yeah. And we're still there, aren't we?
We
Yeah.
are. Yeah. We are. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But listening to the new record, that first line, Jenny, when you sang, I'm tired of being who I'm not, that's a pretty provocative first statement to invite people into a listening experience with.
Yeah.
From what place were you singing that from?
Yeah. So a few years ago, I actually think you came over at one point, but we bought this like super quirky Sprinter van, like really quirky. I think you helped Tyler work on it for
Yeah.
like a
You
day.
made a lot of cookies,
We
so it was.
cleaned,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we cleaned.
Like deep clean.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it was an old plumber's van, so it needed cleaning. But we put a full band in the van. So we had 10 people in the van. 2 of the people were our daughters. So Jane was 2 and Sarah was 4 months old. And I remember being super excited about the whole thing. And then within like a couple of days of being in the van, just thinking this was a huge mistake because it was just complete chaos. Jane was potty training. Sarah was still up in the middle of the night. Like it was just madness. And the tour was really fun in some ways, but I had a lot of moments where I remember just kind of looking around, even from on stage, in the van, and just sort of thinking like, who am I? What am I doing? Is this worth it? Because it was just so intense. And I felt myself kind of slipping away and like trying to be a mom on the road, but also knowing that my primary role was like being a performer, songwriter, musician, and feeling really torn between those 2 worlds. And like I couldn't figure out who I was supposed to be on the road. So the song was written primarily on that tour back in 2015. And there's I don't know if you would hear in the original version of the song, we have a line about our daughter Jane, because it was just, like I said, it felt like total chaos on the road. But the sweetest moments actually happened in the van, and they were, Jane would be in her car seat and I'd sit next to her, and we had mandatory nap time, and I would hold her hand until she fell asleep. And it wasn't like it was normal, but it felt calm and like it was us. And those were just they were the sweetest times of that whole tour, just feeling like, okay, this is me, this is Jane. But I think that question, those questions like, who am I? What am I doing? Is this worth it? You know, it was part of my experience on the road, but I think everyone asks those questions in whatever job you're doing, you know?
Sure, identity,
Yeah.
is organic. Did you sense some of that either from Jenny, or even was that also like a part of your, presence in that moment? Like, what are we doing?
Absolutely. We've been in survival mode because we have young children, but bringing that on the road and needing to manage other people, and we had 10 people in this van, and so it was like, all I know to do is to kind of drive from point A to point B, make sure people get food, and like sleep and talk to, like, try to do what I've done as best I can. At the same time, it was a label project, a label release, and we had gotten these really great pictures taken that looked super cool, and we were trying to be like this image
Uphold
of
it,
people,
right?
yeah, of like cool people.
I do remember someone saying to me, like, you don't look anything like your photo.
And you're like, I'll take that back. You're dismissed.
Slash, you're right. I think it was tough because we were just trying to make it through each day, and we didn't have time to connect throughout the day because she was doing the mom thing in the van. Basically, we saw each other on stage, and so I'm playing these songs, and I'm like looking at this stranger who is my wife, and just thinking, I just want to like hang out with you, you know. And so I definitely felt that identity struggle throughout.
And I think that's true, like you were saying, Jenny, in any profession, in any place of life, whether you're getting married for the first time, becoming a parent for the first time, in a new profession, new occupation, just a new, position at a job, I think we derive so much of our identity, at least what we perceive our identity to be, from what we do, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like that was part of the struggle, right? It's like, because am I a mom? Am I a performer? Am I a father? Am I a manager? Am I a performer?
A husband.
Right,
Yeah.
everything. So
Exactly.
how did you begin to delineate, like, is this who I am? Is that who you are? Did you find like one of those roles and it's like, that is who I am and that's where I'm at now? Or, was there like a deeper element of, was that something spiritual? At the end of the day, that like, I'm wondering who I am, but that goes much deeper than any of this that I see.
Oh, yeah.
That was a very good question.
Now answer.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think it's something I think about a lot. There was a fan once gave us a picture that they'd drawn of us, and it was me and Tyler, and then I think we just had Jane at the time, so it was like us and a baby. And the thing that really struck me about the photo was that there wasn't a guitar in it or a microphone or anything like that, like nothing musical about it. And I kind of thought, I love that this person sees us as a family. And I think that for me, the identity thing, there are so many different roles. Mom and like wife and all of that has become just really the thing that I feel the most drawn to. And I definitely I'm a writer. I would miss that if that like went away, But I think on that tour, we really discovered that too, because we changed the way we traveled by the end of, at the end of that, we were like, well, we can't do it that way again. This was too hard for our family and probably really hard for everyone traveling with us because they were dealing with us trying to figure out how to be a family. But yeah, I think, and I do think it's a spiritual thing, giving yourself grace. I felt like I wasn't fulfilling any role well on that tour. Like I was just kind of barely getting by at every little, different piece of the identity I was trying to make. I mean, at the end of the song we're talking about, it is talking about how God sees us rather than the failure that I was seeing myself as, and how we're enough and that kind of thing. I don't know
that our primary identity is not.
Yeah.
And even as a father, because my kids could go away, or as a husband, because my wife could go away. Which is really sad to think about, but but it's true. And, like
planning on it.
the only lasting identity I have is, I suppose I'm a son of my parents. My parents could go away, but I'm still a son. But ultimately, I'm a son of Abba in heaven, through Jesus. Yeah. I'm brothers with Jesus. He's my older brother, through his blood. So, that's where the song ends, and that's where we find more. Well, I mean, we talk about finding rest. That's where we find our rest. If we don't find our identity there, then we live in a place of great insecurity.
And anxiety and fear, which is interesting because even hearing you talk about that, even the title of the record, There Will Be a Song.
Yeah.
It's like, there will be a song, right? So it's coming, or it's still around the bend, or I still haven't fully discovered or realized it yet. I mean, there's a good bit, like what struck me listening to the record and knowing you guys, but also knowing your musical journey and having heard your musical progression, there's quite a bit of angst.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
I guess there
angsty.
Yeah,
is.
it is. Yeah,
I guess it is.
Yeah,
for sure. That's a
and
good word for it.
Yeah. And I'm curious, and that's very relatable though. I mean, I don't think angsty is a put off necessarily, especially when embedded into music, because music gives us a little, it gives a little free will for everybody. It's generous for people to, it's invitational, right?
Yeah.
But do you feel like that was, I mean, I hear about the van, I hear about this tour, I hear about, okay, us as a family, career, family, all the contrast of that and trying to make it complement, or does it complement each other? Do you, but yeah, you come out with these angsty songs and lyrics. Do you think that was like, do you feel like that points back to a certain circumstance or relationship or just that season? Or is it a season that you're in?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just that in the like 3 years from releasing the previous record of this, I'm sure, to this new record, our family has grown, and you know, like just we have another kid. So I think in that sense we're
2 other kids.
well,
Right?
I guess
Or Sarah was she?
Sarah was
She was
around.
really
She
young.
was around.
Yeah.
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 So the songs, but actually, like even the songs from the record before, Sarah wasn't born when we were writing those songs. So really,
Okay.
in the writing of these new songs, we've added 2 kids, and that whole thing, I think figuring all of that out has played a big role. Like, just we've changed as people a lot.
That whole
So,
thing.
That whole thing.
That's a Guffman reference, by the way.
Yeah.
If you've seen that or
All.
love it, we love it.
Yes.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's a constant struggle. That, like, if I don't remind myself of who I am every day, I live with that. Just like, yeah, that uncertainty. And I think a litmus test for me is like, am I doing the things that I feel like God wants me to do, or am I? Maybe the most direct litmus test is there a boldness and a love to what I'm doing? If there's not, if there's like a hesitancy and a fear, then something's wrong. You know, I'm not living according to who I am in Jesus. So,
is there something you do, like trying to live out of a place of who you really are, of who we really are, right? True identity. Is there something besides those litmus tests? Like, is there something you guys do either as a family, as a couple, or even individually? That, because I think a lot of people are wanting to live out of who I really am, but how do I each day wake up and kind of encourage that or perpetuate that?
I mean, we've been to therapy.
That may be a good start, right?
Like,
Yeah.
It's a really good start.
Yeah.
and it
I
helps,
agree.
for sure.
What is the?
For me, I mean, I'm literally doing it right now because I'm uncomfortable during interviews. So like,
Really?
I have to. Yeah, I am. I have to recite. I know. I'm reciting verses in my head. It's Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Jesus lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. If I hold on to that, man, it's a good day. Yeah.
Well, I mean, reciting verses, I mean, in a way, that's not dissimilar to even therapy, because what it is receiving what someone else has to say about us. Now, that's the ultimate someone else, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think it's so important for us to hear from others.
Yes.
What is it they see in us? What is it they receive from us? And that could be positive and negative, but even the negative at that point is an offering to say, this is what I see in you that could grow. It's not, you're a terrible person. It's I think other people release the shame from our lives if we allow them into those places. Because I think shame is what keeps us in a place of not living from who we are. Yes. And ultimately, Jesus says we are. You're thinking about that.
I am.
You're not sure about that.
I'm wondering if it's shame, if it's a mix of shame and something else. I think shame definitely contributes, but I don't know if I would say it's exclusively shame. But I've not thought about it that long, so.
So you're gonna leave that
So
there.
I'm just
Huh?
thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, come back around to it if you think of something
Okay.
else. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marriage. I do want to talk about that though. In the marriage relationship, has it been? Because you guys have been married how many years now?
11.
11 years.
Mhm.
Okay. So you got some time under your belt, a little experience, and then you add to that kids, and you
Yeah.
add to that you guys work together.
Yeah.
You know that your lives really are built around this marriage relationship. Has it been what you thought it would be?
Oh man,
Oh, wow.
has it been what we thought it would be?
Do
Well,
you remember what you thought it would be?
see, that's the thing. We we literally met as teenagers,
Mhm.
so um, I feel like, and we say it a lot, like we've grown up together completely. I think, or maybe not. I mean, not that we're totally grown up, but I went from like living with my parents to being in college to moving into an apartment with Tyler. Like it was very much. We've not like been or at least I feel like I was never really my own like independent person. So I think I don't know what I think we thought it would be like super fun, but I don't think we went in thinking like it wouldn't be hard, And
I think
I
I
don't
went
know.
about thinking it wouldn't be hard.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it has to do with my personality, but I'm pretty idealistic, and I have these big ideas. And when it comes to executing those, I try to avoid pain in a lot of ways, uh, and sorrow and grief. Um, I think I'm supposed to be a 7. Apparently, that's common with Enneagram people, 7.
Yeah.
So, um, so I
Avoiding
didn't,
pain for sure.
yeah, I didn't think much about the about what it would look like, other than we can do this together and it's going to be fun and we'll get to explore together, which are still fun parts. I still enjoy those.
Yeah. I think having kids, like you don't know what it's going to look like really until you're there. So I think our life definitely looks a lot different than we imagined, but I don't know what we imagined in the first place. And I know that when we started music, there was a very much like a romantic aspect to it with the traveling and the adventure that wore off. But at the same time, we still are, we still look at each other sometimes and say like, how is it that we're doing this together? This is so cool. That anyone would listen at all is really cool, even if it's not on this grand scale of, but yeah, life looks different. And I'm,
I just, in general, for me, we were told this idea of looking at the calendar and trying to feel the calendar.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the most I do of like imagining what something's going to be like.
Okay.
And it's only 3 to 4 to 5 months ahead, generally. So I'm looking at a day to day and thinking like, am I going to be exhausted this day, or am I going to be able to have like some sort of energy to share with Jenny or the kids or the people I'm out on the road with or at home with? And that's really the extent of my planning, or like feeling of.
You think you're a 7, yeah.
Okay.
Very definitive.
Do you think a lot about like the way things are?
Do I think a lot? We could just stop there.
The way things are gonna be, or like, do you have a vision?
You're the first person to turn the interview on me. I like it.
Because for me that's uncommon, but
yeah, I think that's the personality you're talking about for you is an adventurer, is someone who's in the moment.
right.
Yeah.
I struggle to be in the moment. So
Okay.
yes, I forecast a lot.
Okay.
I don't know that I have a lot of fear in that necessarily, but I do think a lot about the future. Because I think about it as if I think about myself in the future and see if this relates, I don't want to miss out on today. What then in the future I'll go, I missed out on that. Whether that's maybe that's getting married and having kids.
Right.
Like did I not leave a legacy that was more important than what was I doing with my time? Was that as important, or have its own? You know what I mean? And that goes back to identity. It comes full circle to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's this constant question that we have. Like, there's some meaningfulness in that question, right? Like, are we purposeful? Do we have a purpose? I mean, it's the root of our existence is trying to connect back to who we came from, which is God.
Yep.
And so, and I think in y'all's lives, when I observe, I think you see that not only partnership with music, I think partnership around music can be a beautiful picture of like connecting together. It's the community thing. You have built-in communion, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then exhibit that even on stage
Mm-hmm.
together for people. And I think when people observe communion, whether it's between two people or between two people in a band or between you and your girls or whatever, that they then it's a free invitation for them to participate in communion. So I think that's a beautiful
Wow.
thing. But I will say this.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I don't know if we're supposed to talk about this on camera, but you're about to have more communion.
Yes.
More
That's
communion.
fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
It's early, but we don't care.
Oh, okay. By the
Oh,
time this comes out in
yeah.
a couple weeks, you know.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We've seen a heartbeat. I'm not
Okay.
concerned.
So you're pregnant.
It
And
looks like a human being. Huge head, but that's common
that comes from.
from me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But you don't know the gender yet. We don't know
No.
if it's boy or girl. Would you, if you had? I mean, everyone asks it, right? But since you already have 3 girls,
Yeah.
if you had your druthers, would it be a boy or a girl? You can both answer.
I don't have any. It's just whatever comes is
I
cool.
think ultimately a girl would be, just because I don't. Just see little boys who are so crazy. But I know they're not all like that, and I know that some girls are insane. Like, and we had one of our girls went through a period where we were just like, "Who are you?" You know, like, what happened to you? And she did come back, and that was really good. She came back to us.
Wow.
It's about a year though.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So-
The 3s, yeah.
Okay.
With our oldest.
Yeah. But
Yep.
she's amazing.
She was nuts.
But she's awesome now. She's really awesome.
And it probably adds to her. And who knows
Oh, yeah.
where that streak
I think
will continue in its
She
own
actually
beautiful
remembers
way.
it too.
Yeah.
She's like,
She does.
"Do you remember when I did this?"
Yeah.
And we're like, "Yes."
But man, she's confident and like bold and so brave and
my
a
goodness.
sweet friend. Like,
Huh.
yeah,
That's-
it's great.
If we shared some of the stories,
We
though,
don't need to do
it would
that.
be
That's not nice to change.
inappropriate.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
That's my alarm.
Oh, interview done.
Yep.
Done.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I know.
No.
He's like, do not want to be in that setting longer than possible.
Yeah, turn off your alarms.
you're good.
These are too personal, these questions.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
no. Yeah.
We need to be.
You only have
No.
one more question. There's only one more. left.
Okay.
So we started with, you start the record. We start the interview and we start the record with this, I'm tired of being who I'm not. And again, this kind of like entry into, whoa, what is someone feeling? And I've felt that before. But you end with a song called He Is Good in a pretty simple statement. You know, you start pretty provocative and with a lot of question is what I would say. And you end with what it seems a more kind of steadfastness, a simple assurance. Do you feel that is kind of your cycle too, as a individual, as a couple, as a musical duo? Like, is that a
Yes.
landing spot?
I think so.
I think you should talk about writing that song.
Okay. Well, yeah. So a lot of this record came out of just a season of like extreme anxiety and fear that was due to a seizure I had shortly after Mary was born. And I have epilepsy. It's not weird to have a seizure, but I had it it started while I was holding her. And so it affected me really in a completely different way than any other seizure I've had, because while I was able to get her, like, I put her down before I lost consciousness, it was still just like, it was really traumatic for me, thinking like, wow, my kid could have been involved, and like I had all the what ifs going on. And so I went from being a person who was like pretty steady, like I really didn't deal with anxiety, to having like daily panic attacks and not being able to leave my house or like be with my girls by myself. And, you know, I mentioned therapy earlier. Like, I was able to go do this trauma therapy called EMDR for like PTSD basically. And, man, it was life-changing for me. And so much of the record was written like there's a song, Come Be Free, so much of it was written from a place of like, man, I just want to be done with this. Like, I want to be free from this, and I know that I can. And I think that landing on "He is good" was really, I was just having to write and sing those words, write those words, like just to get through what was going on. And I don't know if that was one of the last songs written for the record or not, but it was towards the end probably. And I think that's where we have to land all the time, because I have to remind myself, like, well, I mean, not for sure, but like, it is likely that I will have another seizure, you know, because I've had them my whole life. It's gonna happen probably. But He is good no matter what. And yeah, so it's just something I'm having to live daily, like being reminded of that, being reminded of freedom from fear and anxiety. Yeah. Do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, something, whatever popped into my head when you were saying that was just we texted some friends in California, or I did yesterday, and I asked them just generally, how are you doing? And they said a few things, and then said, I'll just quote myself or something. Life is hard, but God is good. And I was like, that's good stuff right there. So yeah, that's really all I have to contribute. I mean, maybe about the cycle. I feel like it's that cycle can happen in a day, or in an hour, or in a longer period of time, maybe a few months. We've had sick kids for the past 9.5 weeks. It's like I'm feeling a little hopeless, but I think just putting it out there yesterday, asking for prayer, has renewed a bit of that. Like, hey, this isn't going to last forever. It's a temporary thing. Feels like a long time, but so yeah, I think those cycles happen in varying degrees and also different time periods.
It's good to say things out loud. It's good to also say life is hard and God is good.
Yeah.
Not just God is good, but life's hard.
Yeah, it's good to say both.
Yeah. They're both true.
I'm tired of being who I'm not. Feels like I've given it a shot. It leaves me empty and afraid when I step onto a stage, being who I'm not. I pack my suitcase till it bursts, overflowing with my skirts. The soles are coming off my shoes, so many miles left to get through, being who I'm not. These lies, they pull me till I break and numb me to the pain, like I'm sleeping, like my life is caught up in the wind, confused and questioning who I really am again. Coffee is brewing in the van. I'm sitting here holding her hand. These days are long, but years are short. What did my life look like before, when I wasn't who I'm not? These lies, they pull me till I break and numb me to the pain, like I'm sleeping, like my life is caught up in the wind, confused and questioning who I really am again. Oh, ooh, oh, oh. draw me in. You know my name. Assure me that it doesn't have to be this way, that I'm enough, don't have to run. I'm okay, I'm okay. You call my name, say I can change, secure me now. I don't have to live afraid. You lead me to a quiet stream. There I rest, there I rest. Oh, there I rest. You draw me in, you know my name. Assure me that it doesn't have to be this way, that I'm enough, don't have to run. I'm okay, I'm okay.